If you step out of your house right now and look up at the sky, or at a power line, or a nearby tree, chances are you will see a black bird watching you. For most of us, a crow is just part of the background noise of the urban landscape. Cause, blackness, perhaps a minor nuisance scattering trash in an alleyway. But the truth is, when you look at a crow, it doesn't see you as part of the background. It sees you, it sees your face, it memorizes your features, and perhaps it judges you. We tend to believe that humans are the only true observers on this planet. We are the ones who set up cameras, we are the ones who study animals, we are the ones who write history. But corvids, the family of birds that includes crows, ravens, magpies, and jays, have flipped this equation upside down. They have been watching us for thousands of years, learning from us, exploiting us, and most terrifyingly, they never forget. To prove this, we have to go back to a bizarre and now famous experiment conducted at the University of Washington in Seattle. A researcher named John Marsluff decided to test the limits of crow memory. He didn't use brain scanners or sterile cages. He used theater. Marsluff put on a grotesque rubber mask, a face that looked like a stereotypical caveman. He went out into the university campus and captured 7 crows. He tagged them, measured them, and released them. The experience was stressful for the birds, but not physically harmful. It was a moment of trauma. Days passed, then weeks. Marsluff returned to walk on campus wearing the same caveman mask. Suddenly, the campus turned into a battlefield. The crows he had caught earlier didn't just flee, they attacked. They began to scream a very specific alarm call, a scolding call, and dive-bombed him from the sky. You might say, okay, an animal remembers who heard it, what's strange about that? A dog remembers a bad owner, an elephant remembers a hunter. But what happened next defies everything we thought we knew about animal cognition. Marsluff kept coming back. A year later, he walked the campus in the mask. The flock of attacking crows had doubled in size. 5 years later, the attacks were even more violent. Crows that hadn't even been born at the time of the first capture were now diving at the caveman. How is this possible? How can a young crow who has never seen this face before identify it as an enemy in a crowd of thousands of students? The answer lies in something we long thought was exclusive to humans: cultural transmission. The crows weren't just screaming in anger, they were screaming information. They were describing the face, they were teaching their children, their neighbors, and their extended family that this specific face equals danger. They had turned this researcher's face into a generational folklore, an icon of evil passed down through the bloodline. Think about the implication of this. If you throw a rock at a crow today, 10 years from now, a completely new generation of crows might attack you in the same park because your story was told to them in the nest. This ability to share abstract information, to talk about something that is not currently present, is a cornerstone of language, and it suggests that their social structure is far more complex than a simple flock. They have distinct dialects. A crow from Tokyo sounds different to a crow from London. If you move a crow to a new region, it struggles to understand the local slang for a while. But to understand why they are this smart, we have to look inside their heads. In biology, there is a general rule: to be smart, you need a big folded brain. For a long time, we looked at birds' small walnut-sized brains and mocked them. We invented the insult bird brain to describe stupidity. We assumed that because they lack a cerebral cortex, the wrinkled outer layer of the brain where human intelligence lives, they must be automatons. Science has recently proven that we were the stupid ones. When neuroscientists used 3D imaging to map the corvid brain, they found a structure called the natopallium. It is dense, packed with neurons, and wired exactly like our prefrontal cortex. In fact, the neuron density in a crow's brain is higher than in a primate's brain. Evolution took a completely different path. Mammals built a big folded cortex. Dinosaurs, birds, built a small hyper-dense supercomputer. They don't just survive, they engineer. Let's move from the quiet campus in Seattle to a busy intersection in Sendai, Japan. A group of carrion crows is sitting on a power line, holding walnuts in their beaks. These are onigurumi walnuts, rock hard. Even a crow's beak, which can pierce skin and tear meat, cannot crack them. Dropping them from the air doesn't work. The shell is too thick and the drop isn't high enough. So the crows watch the humans. They wait for the traffic light to turn red. The crosswalk signal chirps. The crows fly down, land on the asphalt, and place the walnuts meticulously in front of the tires of the waiting cars. They don't just drop them randomly, they position them in the kill zone. Then they fly back up to the safety of the wires. The light turns green, the cars roar forward, crack, crack. The tires crush the shells. Now here is the genius part. The crows don't dive immediately to get their prize. That would be suicide. They wait, they watch the traffic light again, They wait for the pedestrian walk signal. When the humans walk, the crows walk with them, safely picking out the nutritious kernels from the crushed shells, while the 2-ton metal predators are stopped by a red light. This behavior requires a cognitive stack that is mind-blowing. Physics, understanding that a heavy object moving at velocity equals force. Mechanics, understanding that cars move in predictable lanes and won't swerve to hit or avoid a nut. Symbolism, understanding that a red light means stop and a green light means go. They have hacked our infrastructure. We built cities for humans, but the crows treat our technology as just another set of natural forces to be manipulated. To them, a Toyota isn't a vehicle. It is just a very reliable, very heavy rolling rock. But their engineering goes beyond exploiting us. They build their own tools. For decades, anthropology defined humans as the tool maker. It was our defining trait. Then we saw chimps using sticks to fish for termites, and we moved the goalposts. Okay, only primates make tools. Then came Betty. Betty was a New Caledonian crow studied at Oxford University in 2002. Researchers placed a small bucket of meat at the bottom of a clear plastic tube. Next to it, they placed a straight piece of wire. Betty had never seen wire before. In the wild, her species uses twigs and stiff leaves. She looked at the meat, she picked up the wire. She tried to lift the bucket, but the straight wire just slipped off the handle. It didn't work. Most animals would give up here. A dog would bark, a cat would knock the tube over, a less intelligent bird would just peck at the plastic. Betty took the wire to a crack in the table. She wedged the tip in, and using her beak, she bent the metal. She adjusted the angle, she tested it, she bent it further, she created a perfect hook. She then lowered the hook into the tube, snagged the handle of the bucket, and pulled it up. This moment sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Betty didn't learn this by trial and error. She didn't learn it by watching another crow. She simulated the physics in her mind, she visualized a tool that did not exist, and then she manufactured it from a novel material. This is causal reasoning. It is the ability to understand why things happen, not just that they happen. She understood the concept of hookness, and it gets deeper. In recent years, we have seen crows using tool is to get other tools. This is called meta-tool use. In a complex puzzle box experiment, a crow was presented with a piece of meat behind bars. To get it, he needed a long stick. The long stick was locked in a box. To open the box, he needed a heavy stone. The stone was suspended on a string. To cut the string, you get the idea. The crow looked at the setup for 2 minutes. He didn't touch anything. He just looked. He was building the plan in his head. Then he executed the 8-step process in perfect order, without a single mistake. This is planning. This is mental time travel. This is an animal that lives in a world of cause and effect, just like we do. They don't just react to the present moment. They manipulate the future to serve their needs. But intelligence isn't just about solving puzzles or cracking nuts. The true test of a mind is how it navigates the most dangerous landscape of all, society, and that is where the story gets dark. There is a myth that crows live alone or in chaotic, noisy flocks. The reality is that corvid society is as complex, rigid, and dramatic as a season of Game of Thrones. They mate for life. They recognize their siblings and parents for years after leaving the nest. They form alliances. If a crow gets into a fight, its friends will jump in to help. If a crow betrays an alliance, stealing food from a friend for example, they are punished. They have a justice system. But the most haunting aspect of their society is how they handle death. If you walk into a park and see a dead pigeon, the other pigeons will walk right over it. They don't care. They don't seem to notice. They just peck around the corpse for crumbs. But if a crow dies, the world stops. One crow will spot the body. It will let out a specific call, a gathering call. Within minutes, the trees will fill with black shapes. Dozens, sometimes nearly 100 crows will gather. They don't touch the body, they don't eat it, they sit in absolute silence. Scientists call these crow funerals. For a long time, we projected our own emotions onto this. We thought, look, they are grieving, they are sad. And while they may feel grief, their limbic systems are certainly capable of it. Science suggests something even more practical and terrifying is happening. This isn't just a funeral, it's a crime scene investigation. Researchers found that during these gatherings, the crows are hyper alert, they are scanning the environment, they are analyzing the variables. Is there a hawk nearby? Is there a cat? Is there a human holding a gun? Or perhaps a human holding a specific type of food? They are learning. They are downloading the data of the death so that they don't make the same mistake. If a specific person is seen standing near a dead crow or holding a dead crow, that person is marked for life. The funeral attendees will memorize that person's face and spread the word. That tall man with the red hat, he is death, avoid him. This social sharing of risk is their superpower. It is why they are taking over the world while other birds are going extinct. Most birds have to learn from their own mistakes. If a robin eats a poisonous berry, it dies. End of lesson. If a crow sees another crow eat a poisonous berry and die, the entire flock learns, don't eat the red berries. They learn from other people's mistakes. This is the foundation of civilization, accumulating wisdom so that the next generation starts with a head start. But their social skills aren't just about fear and death, they are also about trade. Music shifts to something lighter, more curious. In Seattle, there was a young girl named Gabby Mann. She started feeding the crows in her garden. It started as a simple act of kindness, but then the crows started paying her back. She began finding small objects left on the bird feeder, a shiny earring, a polished piece of sea glass, a Lego block, a heart-shaped pearl, a paperclip. These weren't accidents, the crows were bringing her gifts. They had recognized a reciprocal relationship. You give us food, we give you shiny things. This implies a theory of mind, the ability to understand that another being, the girl, has different desires and thoughts than you do. The crows didn't bring her dead worms, which they liked. They brought her shiny trash, which they noticed she might like. They were trying to bridge the gap between species. They were engaging in interspecies commerce. This is where the line between animal and person begins to blur. If a creature can mourn its dead, analyze a crime scene, punish a traitor, and buy your affection with gifts, can we really still call it a bird brain? Or do we have to admit that we are looking at a mirror? So we have an animal that makes tools, has a language, understands physics, remembers faces, holds funerals, and engages in trade. This leads us to the ultimate test of consciousness, the final barrier that separates biological robots from beings. The mirror test. For decades, we thought only humans, great apes, and dolphins could recognize themselves in a mirror. If you put a cat in front of a mirror, it attacks the reflection. It thinks it's another cat. It has no concept of self. It sees a stranger. But in 2008, scientists placed magpies, a member of the corvid family, in front of a mirror. They placed a colored dot on the bird's throat, a spot they couldn't see directly. The magpie looked in the mirror. It saw the reflection. It didn't attack, it didn't squawk, it looked at the dot in the reflection, and then immediately reached up to its own throat to try and remove it. They knew that image is me. This is profound. It means that somewhere in that tiny dinosaur brain there is an I. There is a subject experiencing the world, there is an ego. And this brings us to a humbling realization about evolution. For millions of years, we thought intelligence was a ladder, with humans at the top and everything else on the rungs below us. We thought that to be smart, you had to be a mammal. You needed a cortex. You needed to give birth to live young. The corvid proves that intelligence is not a ladder. It is a tree, and on a completely different branch, separated from us by 300 million years of evolution, nature invented a second form of high intelligence. We are not alone on this planet. We are sharing it with another conscious mind. One that is smaller, faster, and capable of flight.